Hey, Dr. C here with you. So let's talk about omega-3 fats. And these are one of the two essential fats. And you probably heard a bit about them before, but I want to give you some more background and some more context and get a better sense about the relevance of them. So fats are things that we need some versions of. There's two, there's linolenic and linoleic acid that we cannot produce inside of our bodies. And we know that they're essential components of the immune system. We need them for starting and for regulating inflammation. And there have been cases in which people have been deficient in omega-3 fats. It's been rather rare, and it's been in cases where people have been fed only through total parenteral nutrition, meaning they had had a loss of intestinal function and were required to get all of their nourishment through intravenous methods. And in the earlier days, they didn't know about fortifying those solutions with essential fats, and some would develop these deficiency syndromes. That's what we learned about omega-3 deficiency and about the importance of that. But let's go a little bit deeper in it. Now, I want to share an image to give you some context about omega-3 and how it plays out relative to tissue hormones. So here's that. Boom, boom, boom. Yeah. So here's the omega-3 fats over on the left side, and linolenic acid, that little loop symbol in front of it is alpha. So alpha linolenic acid, that's the main omega-3 fat that we require. From there, our body can undergo chemical reactions of desaturating it, elongating it, further desaturation, and make that into the active omega-3 fats, EPA and DHA. So those are further down on this. And these are important in various distinct ways. So alpha linolenic acid, this graph doesn't show it, but there are some things that it does do by itself as well. So it's not just a source of EPA and DHA, but it's an important molecule to have on its own. Now, there are those that have it, but have a hard time converting it. They may not make enough EPA or DHA from that. And in those cases, we think about the activity of the enzymes, the delta 5 and delta 4 desaturase especially. And kind of an odd paradox, but those that consume the most fat have the most demands upon their desaturase enzymes. So diets high in total fat, diets high in saturated fat, they end up utilizing and occupying all the activity of desaturase enzymes. So people that the more fat you consume, the less fat you can convert into essential fats. So when someone talks about not being able to make flax oil into DHA or EPA, for example, that's more of a problem on higher fat diets. So lower fat diets, the body can convert that more readily. EPA and DHA, these other important fats, are found in a pre-converted state, primarily in fish and fish oil. They are present in some other foods, but not in amounts that are relevant. You know, I'll often hear people talk about grass-fed meats being a source of omega-3 fats. It is, but the devil's in the details, right? You know, finding coins on the sidewalk could be a source of income, but probably not one that's going to change your lifestyle. And so too, yes, grass-fed meat has some EPA, but we're talking about like 20 milligrams per serving. And believe it or not, the amounts are actually higher in commercial meat. There's a higher percent EPA in grass-fed meat, but there's less total fat. So commercial meats have a lower percent of EPA, but a higher total because we got more fat there. But we're still talking about like 30, 40 milligrams. So that's, again, like finding an occasional quarter, not a good retirement plan. So really, you'll get those directly from fish, or you'll convert that from ALA, alpha linolenic acid. And we see that from many vegetable fats and oils. So flax being the densest known source of that, pretty good amounts in hemp. Also, walnuts and canola are all rich sources of alpha linolenic acid. And given our health, given our nutritional status, we can then convert those. Now, I'll talk in a separate episode about omega-6 fats and all their relevance. The short thing I'd like you to just know right now is they're not bad. We do need them. And there may not even be an omega-3 to omega-6 ratio that's an important thing. It may be more a matter of just needing some of both. So we'll come back to that in future discussions. So more about EPA. Well, I talked about that converting issue, and it looks like there may even be gender differences. So women may be a little bit better at converting alpha linolenic acid into EPA or DHA than men are. And also, we think then about what are the amounts we're talking about. So some will argue about the conversion being a problem. It is, it's about 10 to 15% gets converted, but the amounts come into play in a good way. So flax oil, for example, you may have, 3,000 milligrams of essential fats in a tablespoon or two of flax oil. And even given that low percent, you can still net many hundreds of milligrams of EPA and DHA. And then quantities. Now, essential fats in general, it's kind of tricky to talk about required amounts. I mentioned before about how we learned about deficiencies from those who are on total parenteral nutrition. That's really, as far as omega-3 goes, that's about the only cases we've seen of overt deficiency. There were some groups of children who were fed skim milk before we knew about infant formula, and they did develop omega-6 deficiency, but even in those cases, there wasn't a recognized omega-3 deficiency. So it's pretty tough to be deficient. Now, this is clearly a case to where we know that the goal is not to skate by deficiency, that having optimal amounts is superior, is the real ideal status. Those who have better amounts have better regulation of inflammation, lower rates of all chronic disease, many cancers, cardiovascular disease, diabetes. These are all benefits of healthy amounts of EPA. So how much do we need? Well, it turns out that alpha linolenic acid, the amounts that are important, are not that large, but we need some. So from looking at populations that received all their nourishment intravenously, like we mentioned, or looking at populations that have low rates of conditions associated with suboptimal amounts of omega-3 fats, researchers have put together that we need somewhere around a gram or so of alpha linolenic acid per day, about 1.6 grams for adult men, maybe a little bit less for women because they can convert better than men can convert. In terms of avoiding the worst deficiency symptoms, that may be as little as 300 milligrams per day, which is a pretty small amount. So not hard things to get. We can easily find those amounts in a serving of walnuts. We can see that in a serving of flax seeds or chia seeds. And then cold water fish of most types will give us that full serving also. And that's something to where it's really like a daily average because these do stay in the body. So you don't need to have that amount every day, but if over the week you're averaging that. So a tablespoon of flax oil, for example, could give you 7 grams. And for a man, that's going to be what? So that's like 4 days worth right there from a tablespoon. If you're a woman, that's about a week's supply right there. So not hard to get and not dangerous to get too much for alpha linolenic acid. Without doing unusual supplementation, you really wouldn't get that. But things like flax oil, they're fine to include almost like as a supplement, but they're not things you would really cook with or use in a lot of culinary ways. And we also see this from flax seed giving the same benefit. And then also having the properties of there being fibers and lignans and other compounds. Funny thing is that omega-3 fats in fish, there's some charts I'll share with you in this document that is a graph that I put together. The differences between farmed fish and wild fish were not too significant. They were really not meaningful and not too measurable. Now, for sure, you want to be aware of sustainability and contaminants. Those are important considerations. But omega-3 fats, most any kind of fish, you can do well from that. Apart from that gender issue, there's been data saying that those who are elderly may also have harder times converting. And in those cases, they might need a little bit more precursors, more of the alpha linolenic acid to get enough of the omega-3 fats or enough more fish total. So what does this all look like? Throughout the course of the week, add in a tablespoon or 2 of flax oil, have a couple servings of fish, you're in good shape. If you are vegan or vegetarian, you may want to watch a lot of empty calories from saturated fats like coconut oil or high amounts of other fats or oils. And elderly men can be more at risk. You may want to be mindful of healthy seafood, but a few servings a week of each of those can keep alpha linolenic acid and EPA and DHA in good amounts. All right, Dr. C here with you. Hope that was helpful on omega-3 fats, and I'll see you again real soon. Bye-bye.